The American dream is built on freedom, and that freedom comes at a cost. American Heroes Stories, presented by Life, Liberty, Happiness, is a new series honoring the men and women who've sacrificed to protect that dream. We're proud to play a small part in preserving their stories for future generations. Life, Liberty, Happiness, a Media Squatch podcast presents American Heroes Stories.
All right, folks, welcome to the program. U.S. Marine and Vietnam veteran Gary Witt.
Well, folks.
Thank you for taking time out to join us. We'll start off with where were you born and raised?
I was born right here in Lynchburg at the Guggenheimer Hospital, Virginia Baptist, I guess, back in that day.
Okay.
But Lynchburg's been my home my whole life and still is. And grew up here, went to Brookville High School. So,
Did you play sports in high school?
I did play some intramural sports, basketball and stuff like that, and ran track. But yeah, I had, general life. I mean, I was real skinny. I probably weighed 130 pounds.
Wow.
But when I got out, ended up going into the Marine Corps. That's when I started putting on weight and muscle.
Mm-hmm. Were you? Was there a motivation to join the armed forces, or was this, the only option?
Well, I was, in high school, I had a girlfriend and ended up getting her pregnant and ended up deciding to get married on my 18th birthday.
Nice.
And we had a son that was born, and now right out of high school, I'm so young, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I was playing in a band, playing music, and we had, in fact, we had a pretty big band in Lynchburg called the Epics. We had two black singers, and back in the day, in the '60s, it was, there was something that wasn't too much heard around town.
Uh-huh.
But we used to play that at the Sportsman Club on 5th Street. So it was interesting and a lot of wild things that went on in my life, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but after being out playing music, and we broke up, and it ended up, it's kind of like, because I had a son, it kind of put pressure on me to get involved with the military, because back then, if you were married, you didn't have to worry about getting drafted.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had broke up with my wife, and next thing you know, I started worried about getting drafted. And sure enough, I got a draft notice.
Oh.
And so I just, David Harker, who was one of my schoolmates, he had joined the Army and was captured. And another schoolmate that I used to drive to school, and Russell Blatz is one of the schoolmates. He went over there and joined the Army, and next thing you know, he got killed. And so it was kind of like I was looking for. I thought I was going to go over there and look for David Harker, like I was, going to be a hero myself, finding him. But no, I volunteered basically to. Well, I actually, when I went to get to boot camp, or went up to Roanoke to get my physical.
Yeah.
That's when in walked a Marine recruiter, and he said, "I need two of you guys to volunteer for Marines." Well, one of the guys who was also in the band with me, the black guy,
mm-hmm.
He and I looked at each other and said, "Well, we could go on a buddy plan. It's going to sound like a easy way out." So we both raised our hand, and we got had to go for another physical. Well, when I went in for the second physical, I passed, but he didn't. He flunked he had flat feet or something like that, and so he didn't make the physical. So ended up, I had to go to Paris Island by myself.
Wow.
Now, did he end up serving anywhere, or was he kicked out? Do you remember?
He got out completely after he found out he had flat feet. So,
Gotcha.
But anyway, I went on in to Paris Island, and I decided then that I was going to volunteer for whatever. I figured I was going to go get killed.
Mm.
And so many people getting killed back then. So all the training I went through, I tried to do the best I could, especially rifle. I was a top shooter in my platoon for the rifle. I had, almost a perfect score. But I wanted to get, I really wanted to get into be a rifleman of some where I go out rather than just carry a rifle around. I wanted to go out and be a sniper. I was going to be something special. But I tried to get into jump school, and they said, well, you got to be able to fly. And because you got so many cavities in your teeth, you'd probably get a headache or something flying. So they didn't want me to go to jump school. So anyway, I still volunteered for everything I could think of. When I got over there, believe it or not, I carried a guitar with me to Vietnam. I mean, how many people you see show up with a sea bag and a guitar,
They let you get on the plane with a guitar?
Well, yeah, I actually had the guitar, and I didn't really think about it, but when I got in line in Da Nang Airport, that's where I was at. I came in there, and I got in line to be checked in, and I had the guitar there on my seat bag, and this guy come up and he said, "You play that guitar?" And I said, "Well, yeah, a little bit." He said, "Well, what kind of music you play?" I said, "Well, just, hootenanny. I played in the band, so I played a little bit of every kind of music." And so he said, "Well, how about you coming up to that?" He showed me a little house up on the hill there, and he said, "Can you come up to that house tonight?" And said, "We'll play some music for us." And I said, "Okay." So he went up and told the guy who was checking us in. He said, just, for me to fall out. And so I did, and waited till that night about 8 o'clock and showed up over there and playing hootenanny music and stuff, singing stuff with some of the people that was in the area. And it was an officers club. They were buying me beer and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Treat me nice. And then about, about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, I got to cleaning up. The bartender's over there wiping the bar off, and he said, "Well, got to get out of here." And I said, "Well, where am I going?" And he said, "I don't know where you're going, but you ain't staying here." So here I was in Vietnam on my first night, and
Lord.
had no clue where. I wasn't checked into anything. So I went back down to the airport, which was nothing but a little room about big as this, and it had a bench there. And so I laid my sea bag on top of the bench, and a guitar on top of that, and I crawled up under the bench, and that's where I spent my first night in Vietnam.
No kidding.
Holy cow.
And got up the next morning, and I got back in that same line that was in the day before, and they checked me in, and I ended up going to the golf company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, which were called the Magnificent Bastards.
Yeah.
That's where it was a group of Hell's Angels that had joined the Marines, and they went in as a group, and this was the company that they served in.
Wow.
So when I got to the company, they said, "Well, what do you want to do? You want to what job are you?" I said, "Well, I'd like to be on recon or something." He said, "Well, we got some recon. We're going to be going up he was in North Vietnam anyway, in what they called I Corps." And so they asked me if I wanted to be point man. I said, "Well, I can do that." So I like walking the point because I never walked on a trail. Normally, everybody walks on a trail, they end up with a booby trap or something. So I just I would cut a trail from one spot to the other. He'd tell me where he wanted me to go, and I'd pick out that mountain or whatever hill we were going to, and I would cut a new trail over there. And
Now you're from Lynchburg.
yeah.
You go to Paris Island, and now you find yourself. I mean, what's the terrain like for you? I mean, this is jungle work. I mean, you're in the middle of I mean, how hot is it? Just what? I mean,
it's
what kind of
completely different. Yeah, it's all hot weather, and sometimes it would get monsoon season when it would be so much rain and everything's wet and just going through these rivers and stuff. Yeah, it's a different environment altogether. And well, let me tell you a little story about why I think that I was pretty good with a rifle. Because when I was in high school, I was in a FFA, Future Farmers of America, and they had a contest to see who could sell the most magazines. Now this is high school, and I was one of the ones that sold the most magazines, and I ended up getting my prize was a rifle, and they brought it to me in high school and presented it to me right there. In high school.
The good old
times
days.
are different? Yeah.
And I used to take that rifle and I'd go out, and it was a 22 Magnum lever action.
Oh, wow.
And I'd sit out in the field there, and I could have dove, people dove hunt. They take shotgun. I'd take my rifle and I'd shoot the heads.
Wow.
There you go.
Of doves out there on the wire. But anyway, that was how I was. I got pretty good at what I was doing, but it got over there, and I wasn't afraid of anything. Like I said, I made it through boot camp, and there was some dudes in boot camp that liked to whip up on people, and I stood my ground because the pogo sticks. I was at the point when I was going through that part of boot camp. I beat off the person I was against, and then I beat a second person. They put two people on me, and I beat both of them. So then the drill instructor come around, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna put another." So he put three people in. He said, "I want you to fight these three." So he took my helmet and turned it around sideways, and I couldn't even see what I was doing. I was just fighting these three guys, and they finally beat me. But yeah, I was trying to be real tough. I was a real tough guy, but I was scared to death when I got over there. I took my guitar and all that, but I left the guitar in the rear area in the supply in the rear, and I went on out there in the bush, and but it was, they'd send you out on things like LPs where you go out at nighttime and go out about a couple hundred yards from the rest of the company and listen for people that might be moving through the jungle. And it'd be about 4 or 5 of us that do that LP watch, and I did that quite a bit. And then they sent us up on a recon mission up into North Vietnam to check out where the trails where people were coming down from the north. And we were right there on Ico, which right off the Ben Hai River. And we wasn't but 10 miles, I guess, from the Ben Hai River. And so they sent us in up there one time, and we went into North Vietnam and came back over the river, and we thought the mission was over for that day. We kind of laid back and just taking it easy, and there was a sandbar there on the side of the river. So I'm sitting there, and everybody's kind of unzipping their flak jackets and laid back, and everything's cool. And but we got radio silence, and this Marine Bronco was flying around over top of us. And, in North Vietnam, you think, well, you protect it because you hear this plane. It's got to be an American plane. So anyway, we got kind of easy out there in the sandbar. And this Marine Bronco just came down, and he came down so low that we were saying, giving him a thumbs up, And he saw us and gave us thumbs up back, and right there beside us was a bunch of gooks that were getting ready to hit us, and they thought, well, we could shoot this plane down.
Oh, wow. So
they go cack, cack, cack in the bottom of the plane, and he thought that we were part of the group of shooting at him. So what does he do? He flies around, he comes back in, and this time I'm looking back, I'm shooting at the gooks now. They were shooting at us and pinned us down. And I'm looking back over my shoulder, and I saw this Bronco release these rockets.
Oh, no.
And these rockets were like fingers coming through the air right over top of us. And I said, oh, crap, what in the world? And he had white phosphorus rockets. And actually, they landed right on top of us, right in our position.
Wow.
And one of the rockets hit right beside me, and shrapnel went in my right leg, and then the white phosphorus went up in the air and landed on my left leg.
Huh.
And also, was people that were laying right beside me that the white phosphorus landed. One guy had it on his head. Of course, now I was right there on the sandbar, so I took the sand and knocked the fire out. But the guy that had landed on his head, he jumped in the river, and water doesn't put it out.
Oh no.
So he was struggling trying to get that out, and we had to grab him, pull him back up on the sandbar, and shove his head in the sand, and finally got it all put out. And
Is this while you're also being shot at still?
oh yeah,
Or the-
they were shooting. we were pinned down from that, and then not only that, he went around again, and this time he came in with miniguns. He's got
Oh.
these miniguns, just like just a rapid fire miniguns. They came in. I saw bullets actually tear my pants.
Oh, good grief.
Anyway, now there was 4 men, the top 4 officials in the group that was that day. They got wounded. One of them had a rocket land right between his legs,
Oh.
and he had just got a letter in the mail that he had a baby back home, and so we had to call a chop. That one of the radio man actually had his hand blown off,
Wow.
and so this friend of mine named Billy Steiner, he picked the radio up and got to cussing, and he got the channel that this Marine Bronco was on, and he got on, and he cussed so well that he convinced the guy that he was a American, Marine, and so he actually called in the chopper for us, and anyway, the chopper that came in was it had 3 wheels, and so it wasn't a big chopper, so it was just big enough to get the 4 guys on. So they brought chopper and set it down on the river edge of the river bank, and we put those 4 guys that were wounded. And I just talked, believe it or not, I just talked to one of those 4 guys. I talked to him last Saturday night.
No kidding.
He's still alive, and he was telling me the reason I'm telling you this because I was telling this guy that I'm in the military of the Purple Heart. I'm in the that organization with this guy, and this guy that's in this region was in my company. Had Golf 24 on his shirt, and I met him, and we got to talking, and he told me, he said, well, I had another fellow tell me the same story, and come to find out he was one of the guys that was with us in Vietnam. And so he went home and gave him my card, and he called me last Saturday night.
Wow.
And we talked about it, and he was thanking me for saving him, putting him on the chopper, getting him out of there.
Unbelievable.
All these years later.
Yeah, I couldn't believe he's still alive. So that was on January 30th. And then, so I was in good shape. So they sewed me up. I put about 7 stitches in my right leg and gave me a whole backpack full of bandages for my left leg where the white phosphorus would burn a hole. And so they sent me right on back out to the bush.
Oh my goodness.
It's because they needed the people in the bush. So I'm out there, and things progressed. It's more and more things were going through each week. And
Now, how long had you been there when that occurrence at the river happened?
it was after, because I went through. I remember Christmas that year, 68. I remember going on a search and kill patrol, and we found these little leaflets that they'd thrown out all over the jungle. That was, that day. That was a very disheartening day because it was Christmas Day, and we go out on this patrol, and we're picking up these little leaflets that said "Yankee go home" and this, that, and the other. I've got one of them in my Bible now that I kind of keep as a remembrance of what all happened. But yeah, it was right. I'd been there probably in about August or September. I got there in Vietnam, so this was after Christmas, and this January 30th was after we went on that recon patrol. So here I am, and this is one of those when the socked in weather comes in. We were just you couldn't get resupplied because there's so much cloudy weather. You couldn't get anything in to fly in or drive. So we had set in on this hill, and well, I guess it had also been on another mission. They sent us into to this hill. They called it Fox Ridge Hill, and what happened was Fox Company was on top of this hill, and they sent golf company, my company, and hotel company to go in and relieve them and get their bodies off the hill because they got wiped out. So we go in late one evening, and I go out there and pick up bodies, and I had to go up on this trail and come back with bodies, and we put, I don't know, several bodies in body bags, and just waiting for them to get everything organized so that we could probably take the hill, So anyway, that night they got us to back away from the hill, and they came in and strafed the hill with everything. The big bombers come in, and they would drop just napalm and everything you could think at on the hill, and it was pretty devastating. I mean, you think you could stand back and you could feel the heat.
Wow.
It was so close. But anyway, the next morning they were going to send us out to go up and take the hill. So they called me into the headquarters, which is just to set up a temporary tent, and they said, "Look, you and your fire team are going to be the first ones going up the hill tomorrow. So we want you to go back and write a letter home."
Oh, wow.
So, we kind of, by then, I mean, I'm kind of getting, used to seeing things happen and people getting killed. And I pulled enough bodies off that hill to put in body bags and all. It just makes you feel that you've been through something already. It's traumatic, And so I figured, well, I'm probably going to be one of the next ones. Anyway, I went back told my fire team that they need to write a letter home, and they were all, everybody was writing a letter, and I was trying to write letters, and I started writing a letter and said, if you read this letter, then I'll probably be in heaven. Then I got to thinking about that. I said, well, what have I done to go to heaven?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I didn't really deserve that, that's for sure. So I figured, well, I had this little Bible in my backpack, and so I got that out and got to reading and read about the plan of salvation and how to get saved, and I shared it with my guys, and so we, I made a commitment to the Lord that night. I wanted to live for Him. So next morning, we're getting ready to go up this hill, and I was already also told that I had to walk on the trail, which is against my religion altogether. I didn't even think. I'm thinking, well, I've got to walk on this trail. They wanted my fire team to be on each side of me, like we were three ranks going up this hill. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm laying there just waiting for everybody to get, in lined up and everything. And I said a little prayer. I said, Lord, you get me up this hill, and I'll live my life for you. So anyway, I didn't think a lot about it, but I went on, got on the trail. I'm going up there, and sure enough, I hadn't gone a couple hundred yards, and there I saw a head sticking out and a rifle sticking out of a bunker. And I passed the word back that I'd spotted the enemy and I wanted permission to fire. Well, the word came back up to me and said, don't fire till they fire first.
Oh, goodness.
So what am I to do? I can't fire, so the only thing I can do is pray. I mean, I said, well, this is probably going to be it. So I'm praying, and I stood up, and I'm watching this guy in the bunker, and I'm going up there, and he's not even, he's not even manning his rifle or anything. He's scarier than I am. He's frightened. And then when I got up there to him, I pulled him out, and I sent him on back down the line. And I kept on going, and we actually captured three gooks that day off the hill. And I don't know where the others came from, but I know that they took them and interrogated them. But I got to the top of the hill. I was one of the first people up there, and I dropped down in this bunker. It's kind of looking around to see if anything's in it, anything that might blow up or something. But I sat down in a bunker, and I said, "Thank you, Lord, for getting me up this hill." And I heard a little voice say, "Well, I've done my part." And so, anyway, it turns out that there's a hospital and all kinds of ammunition. You wouldn't believe the stuff that was up on that hill. It was unbelievable. And the people that they interrogated, they found out that they had left a 50-man squad behind to slow us down. They knew we was going to come over the hill, so we took the hill, and we were up there for the next couple of weeks. But like I said, it was that time when everything was socked in. You couldn't get resupplied. So we went on, and finally we left that hill, and we went over to another hill, and then I had to go through. I mean, we're going through rivers, and the leeches and stuff in the rivers was unbelievable. They was attached to you, and
so is there? Because I'm not familiar with Vietnam, but is there wildlife? Is there like?
Yeah, they actually, when I went through a river, I'm looking at fish that have never seen man before. I mean, that's how wild the areas are.
Wow.
And the fish would come up and be looking at you like, hey, this might be something good to eat, But there was wildlife. We ran into you hear sometimes a deer or something like that would be in the woods. In fact, I didn't kill anybody. I heard some guys talk about it. They killed a deer or snakes and things. I mean, big bulk of strictures.
That's what I'm just saying right there. I'd pass.
Yeah, I did see one of those. One of the guys run up on and killed it, and we actually had a little meat off of that. But anytime you got into a battle, it was like you had a great time, because usually the goose would carry a rice sock. So when we had sea rations, they had this beef gravy and stuff in there. We'd get that rice out and cook it up, and it was like having a delicacy, That was a good meal we had whenever we had a battle. But anyway, we were socked in these places, and everything kind of was going very slow. You didn't know what was going to happen next, but a lot of us was, like you said, we were scared, and we finally had to resort to digging into fire pits where on these hills that the Marines had been before. Somebody had been there, Army who had been on the hill. We got to digging into fire pits and finding these little canisters of pimento cheese. Nobody liked pimento cheese, so they'd always throw them away. That's what we was living on, was eating these pimento cheese. And,
so when you're taking these hills, or at least, is this a day process? Is this a week process, or half a day?
It sometimes would be just a day or so, and then you're there and you'd go on to they'd have another mission for you to go on. It was like they got us.
Are you staying in, like, sleeping in the jungle?
Oh yeah, you stay. The only thing you had was your like a poncho, or maybe a poncho blanket, something like that. You wrap up in to keep you if it's cool, but most of the time you didn't have anything at all except going on with sea rats. You had sea rats and things like that. But
was it hard to sleep? I mean, were you able to get
I didn't have sleep apnea back then.
So you were able to catch some Z's when you're doing these trips?
I'm sure, yeah. We doze off sometimes. And
what are you, 19, 20 years old? How old are you when this is going on?
I turned 20 in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when we being socked in, we went without any resupply for so long. We were getting pretty desperate. So finally, they decided to go have a day where it was going to be restocked. It was going to bring in the C-130, and you could fly over, and I mean, the cloud, you still couldn't see anything but the clouds right above you. So we heard this plane, and it came over, and it crashed, and it was a big crash down in the jungle, probably about 2 or 3 miles from us. And they made a correction from that, and came back over, and they dropped the next one almost right in the middle of our perimeter. So we had plenty of food. Then they dropped another one just outside of our perimeter. So we got three pallets dropped to us, and there was ammo in those pallets too. So after we got plenty to eat, they said, well, we need to send a group to go pick up that pallet that crashed in the jungle. We knew approximately where it was, but we didn't know where it was. So they sent 50 of us, about 200, 250 in a company. So they sent 50 of us to go find that pallet. So we took a group, and the machine gunners was with us, and we went down the ridge. Most of it was downhill. We got down there, and probably 2 or 3 hours we were on the pallet, but the pallet was stripped.
Oh.
And all we could do was just follow the trash through the jungle. And they would open up the C-rats, and they were getting this stuff out, and they were throwing the trash in, and we just kind of followed that. And we had a whole big trail of, that we could keep up with. Finally, we caught up with them, and we killed 7 that evening.
Wow.
And so where we had got to, it was kind of like down in this ravine. It was real low down. And so they said, well, we're going to leave 5 of you guys down here to set up an ambush over the bodies. And 45 of the guys went back up about halfway up the hill towards the rest of the company. So they are, 45 up there and us 5 down there. So I was leading the group that was in the ambush.
You keep getting put on the point, aren't you?
I volunteered, so I can't really. You couldn't complain because I didn't care at that time. I was just.
Now, are you feeling invincible? Or are you feeling that if it's your time, it's your time? And I mean,
well, like I said, I had prayed this prayer, and I did feel a lot better off knowing that I had the Lord on my side. If I did die, I didn't have to worry about it.
Wow.
But we set up over the ambush that night, and then it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It's how it was still socked in, and the machine gunner was on one side of me and the radio man was on the other, and we had to click the radio every hour to let them know we were alive.
Oh my goodness.
The machine gunner, we were sitting there, and all of a sudden you hear something like somebody moving out in front of where the bodies are. And he wanted permission to fire. And I said, no, we're not going to fire till we can't see anything, so no use firing. Because if you do fire, you're going to give it up your position.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'd probably be dead then. So I just kept on clicking the radio, and we passed the radio between us and make sure somebody stayed awake. So about dawn, we decided, let's try to get back up to the rest of the 45 guys, because you couldn't really tell anything, nothing to shoot at. So we started up the trail and caught up with the guys, and they were probably a couple hundred yards up the trail. Now we sat down and had breakfast, I guess you say, some of the sea rats, and so we was telling them about we're hearing some noise, but we didn't shoot. They said, well, you guys should have shot. We could have give you some luminaries, some flares with aluminum. So anyway, we said, well, we didn't do it. So they said, well, y'all going back down the hill first. So I had a guy that I had been breaking in on point. He had been there a couple of weeks. So I asked him, I said, you feel like walking point? Because the point man is the only one that could have a round in his chamber. Because what happened was if everybody had a round in the chamber, somebody falls down, they discharge a weapon, they could kill somebody or they shoot them in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened more than once.
No
and
kidding.
sometimes it wasn't mistakes. I think somebody just didn't like somebody, so they would kind of fall down. And
Yeah.
anyway, we this guy had volunteered to be point, so I figured he was brave as I was. So he's walking in front of me, and he comes around a bend. Now, keep in mind, I had like chevrons on, corporal chevrons that, and one of the little pins that goes through the cover was missing off the back of one side of it. So I only had a pin on one side with my chevrons. Anyway, he walked around the same trail we just came up, and there was 3 gooks sitting in the trail setting up a rocket to. They figured we'd be coming back down the trail, so they're setting up this rocket, and so and when he saw him, it scared him so bad that he just, because he had a round in the chamber, he just pulled the trigger, started shooting up in the air. Well, he turned around and ran right straight into me, and when he did, he hit those chevrons and, knocked me down. And I sat up and there's blood running down my face. And what in the world happened? I didn't even know why he ran or why he shot or what anything. All I know is I'm laying on the ground. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And all of a sudden, we're back engaged in fire again. We're back doing our fire team maneuvers and moving up. And it just scared him so bad when he saw those 3 set up the rockets. He scared him. So we kept on going and ended up getting back down the hill almost where the bodies were. And and by then they had got the bodies up, and it was a whole battalion down. We didn't know it.
Oh my gosh!
And we were working our way right into the middle of this battalion, and all of a sudden, somebody passed the word, cease fire, because we're running out of ammo because we've been fighting the night before and we're getting low on ammo. So they asked us to, don't shoot unless you actually see somebody or something in the jungle. A lot of people just shoot at movement,
Mm.
So we're laying on the ground, and I'm looking out, and I know that most of the company is to my right. I'm the only one on the left, and I'm looking there, and I saw this guy get up, and he's probably 40, 50 yards from me, and he stood up, and he's looking down through the jungle the other way. Nobody, like I said, nobody that I knew was over there, so he's looking that way. But I've got my rifle trained on him in prone position, and I watched him, and he had 2 Chacoms, which wouldn't handle grenades, and he had them in his hands like this with between his fingers, and they are activated by pulling a string. And I watched him. He pulls the string, and I know that there's a certain length of time they're gonna go off. And instead, all of a sudden, he turns and looks right straight at me, and he hauls off, throws these 2 grenades. They're coming right at me, and all I know is I pulled the trigger, and I know he went down, but I balled up in a ball right there where the grenades were, and they went off, but I don't even think I got hit at all. Just maybe some shrapnel went through my ear or something, but it was not bad. So I jumped up from that point and went over and jumped over behind this tree that had a real long root coming down. I jumped over there, and there was the same guy that was supposed to be walking point to first. He was hiding back out behind the tree.
Oh, man.
And he's scared. He's just sitting there just shaking. He's scared to death. And I'm trying to act brave to him. Say, look, Marine, you got to get back in the fight. We got to keep, we're up against the enemy, so we got to. I said, now you give me a cover. I'm going to go to that spot right out there, which maybe 15, 20 yards from where I was. I said, now you give me cover, and then I'm going to be out there. You better come up. So he said, okay. So he's giving me cover. I go crawling out there. And like I said, I hit the ground, and I had just been there just seconds, and all of a sudden I heard thump, thump. These grenades are falling all around me. And sure enough, he comes up, but when he did, he landed on a grenade,
Oh my God.
and it had his flak jacket unzipped,
Ugh.
and the grenade hit right on one side of his flak jacket. Well, the flak jacket was pushed in, but he kind of blew him up in the air, and when it went off, and anyway, I felt his pulse. He was still alive, and so the flak jacket kind of kept him from getting all the damage, but it did go in and hit his lung on one side. And so there I am. I got my backpack and I got my rifle and all this stuff. So I laid everything down and I picked him up, put him on my shoulders, and carried him back to the corpsman. And I had to go find the corpsman because he's back in the, And so I finally got up to him, and the corpsman says, "All right, where's your backpack?" I said, "Well, I left it up there where I picked him up." He said, "Well, I need your backpack." He said, "We got everybody's wounded. I need some bandages." I said, "Well, okay, I'll go back and get my
my
bandage." So I got back up and dropped him off and went on back up, and
Dang it!
and when I got back up front, the line had pulled back about 20 yards from where my backpack was. It was still laying out there.
Mm.
So I go over to the machine gunner, and I said, "Can you give me some cover? I got to go and get my backpack." He said, "Sure, I got you." So anyway, I go crawling down there, and I reached out and got my hand on my backpack, and when I did, I turned just to come back up a hill, and an RPG round landed right where I was.
Mm.
And a piece of shrapnel from that RPG round, about 2.5, 3 inches, went all the way to my hip, all the way to my bone in the back, and so it blew a hole back here in my rear area. So I go back up to the machine gunner, and we're laying there in the middle of the battle, trying to figure out. He was another Marine there too, and we were trying to figure out how can you put a bandage on your butt, and we were laughing. It wasn't funny, but it was funny.
Sure.
At that time. So we tried to do that, and then anyway we had to get the Marine that fell on the grenade, or the grenade blew in front. We put him on a cable, and they took him on up over top of the jungle. He was the cable down through the jungle, and he was going up. He got shot in the same wound going up the cable.
Oh,
And I saw him on a hospital ship later on, and he said, "I can't believe you guys got out of there."
wow.
He said, you were just completely surrounded. It looked like ants all around you.
Oh.
And anyway, I had to walk because they couldn't safely get a chopper in there where we was at. So they brought another chopper up on the hill, and the rest of our company was coming to us. And so we just kind of retreated. Marines never retreat. but we were backpedaling to get up the hill, but we had to go a click from where I was wounded up to where the chopper was. And I was using my rifle like a cane, walking, and got up there. And as I was going up the hill, the squads in front of me they'd put claymore mines on trees, and they'd hand me the activator, the little thing that cuts,
Mm-hmm.
makes it go off. They would hand me that and go on, head on up the hill. Well, I'm sitting there waiting. I see heads popping up, and I would hit the active to click it up to make it go off. And some of them didn't go off because they'd take the C4 out of the claymores and use it to cook the chow.
Uh,
And so it was kind of like you just, if it didn't go off, you got to run real fast.
oh, wow.
But I was just scrambling to get up the hill, and finally got up there. And when I did, they put me in a basket and pulled me up into the chopper. Right after that, a rocket hit right in one of the foxholes in front of where my guys, especially the machine gunner, he was in that foxhole, and it killed 4 guys in that.
Oh.
Right after I got on the chopper. I mean, I was fortunate to get out of there, but.
And I mean, these stories are just unbelievable. Your bravery is just incredible. And I know, reading the bio, you're a 2-time recipient the Purple Heart? Are
Yeah.
those the stories that you've told there? And
that was March the 9th. That was the first one was January the 30th, and then March the 9th was the next one. And
so both of those stories, the one at the river and the one in the middle of the jungle there, down in that valley, those are the efforts that you made that got you the Purple Hearts.
yeah,
Man, those two stories are just incredible.
Chilling.
Steve Bozeman's talked about this, and we've had and I've seen some other guys talk about. So the Marine Corps is really set up where you are the baddest dudes on the planet. I mean, the point men and everything the Marine Corps does is support of those guys that are in the field or that are in the jungle, and you're the point man.
Yeah.
I mean, what an honor it is to talk to you.
Well, it was an honor to be here, period, because I mean I'm blessed to be back. To tell you the truth, I mean, to go through all that and to get up in front of that, bunker with the machine gun sticking out and capture the guy. I don't know why he didn't shoot. I mean, it's more. I know that there's a lot of other brave people out there that didn't make it back, and I feel like I've been given the opportunity to live for them, and that's one of the reasons I've become a veteran advocate, to try to help any way I can, help veterans that and I've run into all kinds of different situations and found it to help people, because when you get out of, like I got out the Marine Corps, I didn't tell you the whole story. My son was actually, I was given custody of him before I left going to Vietnam. Now, when I went away to boot camp, I didn't have custody. But when I come back, some things worked out through the lawyers and everything, and I ended up getting custody of him. I had a reason to come back now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The first reason I was volunteer for everything, because I didn't think I had a reason to come back. But now, and I had met a lady before I went over to Vietnam, and we became. She wrote to write to me all the time, and I swore up and down I would never get married again. Well, as of last Friday, we've been married 55 years.
Wow.
So
That's something.
I'm sorry, I had to jump in and thank you for your service with those stories. When you got lifted out of the jungle, and are you then going to a Navy ship or a hospital, and then they work on you, and then
hospital ship.
And then do you have light duty after that, or is what
Well,
happens?
I spent almost a month on the hospital ship Sanctuary, and then when I came back to my rear area, the top sergeant there, he says, I need somebody to be supply sergeant, and I need somebody to be NCOIC of troops in the rear, non-commissioned officer in charge of troops in the rear. And then the other one, he said, I want you to be a barber. So anybody comes out of the bush and needs to go on R&R, you got to trim their hair. Plus, you got to trim my hair. I had to cut his, and all you had to do is just take everything off the razor and just cut it, But anyway, I agreed to do that, and I stayed. I thought I was going to be able to get back there and play with my guitar, but my guitar was gone, but somebody else had left another one there. So it worked.
So you
out
never
good.
did find your guitar you took with you?
No, somebody took that one. I guess it was a little better than this one, but anyway. But when I did stay in the rear, I knew what the guys needed in the bush.
Yeah.
And so I would go trade camo and stuff like that. I'd trade some of the stuff for the things that they needed, and I made trips out to the bush and got to see the guys, and it was good, get with them.
You're listening to American Hero Stories on Life, Liberty, Happiness. We're talking with Vietnam veteran Gary Witt. Gary, tell us a little bit about your stuff that you're doing now with veterans.
Well, like I said, I have a group that meets every Thursday for PTSD. We've been meeting, I guess, for 15, 20 years, because it's a lot of guys that get out of service. They don't really realize. You think you're just going to go back into society, but that doesn't happen. But if you've faced or been on the battlefield like I had, and I realized what they go through, and some of the veterans today are being deployed more than once. You know,
Yeah.
go out and they come back 2 or 3 months or 6 months later, and that's why you see so much veteran suicide. You know, because it's discouraging to people to be deployed and see all this and then come back. And but we have a group. I've been in the military order, the Purple Heart, in Lynchburg. We had a chapter that we started. I was commander in Lynchburg for several years, and then we got. I went to Lynchburg to talk to them about becoming a Purple Heart city, and they said, "Well, we're going to challenge you to make it a Purple Heart region, to get a community. It's community like the Lynchburg region with all the surrounding counties. So get all of them to be part of this Purple Heart community." And so we did that, and so I went around to all the counties and had them. They do a declaration and actually Virginia itself is a Purple Heart state.
Yeah.
And so by being part of this, what they call the Purple Heart Trail, we was able to get that to happen with Lynchburg and all the surrounding counties. And so sometimes you'll see a Purple Heart community sign. I think it's several here in Bedford. Over here at the grave sites where a lot of the Bedford boys, we've put up a bench over there, and
Yep.
it's a lot of things that we've done to enhance the community and work with the community, make things better for veterans. And Lynchburg Area Veterans Council, I'm a board member of that, and we've got so many things going on, all the different organizations that participate in that, and I'm glad even today I was supposed to go out on a group. My wife didn't want me to go because I've had a heart attack and stroke and all this stuff. So she's saying, you don't need to go out in that heat, because they were doing a ramp bill for the Purple Heart Homes is another Central Virginia chapters, and they were doing a ramp bill today, and I wasn't able to go help them. But this is something that any veteran that needs some assistance like that, all you got to do is go to purplehearthomes.org and sign up for it. You can put in a request, and we'll build a ramp for you to get into your house. Some veterans can't get up and down the steps like you used to.
Right.
And you've heard of the Desmond Doss
Yes.
house we got over in Lynchburg, so we kind of taking care of that and keep veterans in that. So we're trying to cut down on the veterans' homelessness. And but it's good to be able to. Even this meeting I have every week, I'm meeting somebody all the time. It's always people that want to know more about how they can get help, and I run into people, and I can tell pretty quickly very shortly after talking with them if they've got PTSD, and I recommend them to go get a hold to the Roanoke Veterans group up in Roanoke. It's a vet center, and our fellow by the name of John Whitlock, he been over 30 years here in Lynchburg. He'd drive up from Roanoke every week and run this group, and that's what got me started in the groups. And he retired now, but the group still goes. And if anybody is interested in getting involved in that, they could do that. But it's going through the Roanoke Vet Center and sign up, and you have to have your DD 214 and show that your service. But it's all kinds of things out there that can help veterans, and I kind of felt like I was slighted when I got out of service, because when I got out finally, they gave me 30% disability, and I'm saying, well, okay, 30%, it's $100 a month. So I thought I was doing real good. Well, this fellow that I worked with had been in the Air Force, and he'd never been in combat, but some reason he had a wart come up in his hand, and he claimed a shell shock through the VA. You never hear of that today, but that was back when World War II, people talked about shell shock. But he had a wart come up in his hand, and he went and applied for disability for that wart, and got 30% disability.
No kidding.
And I'm working side by side the guy. You know, this isn't right. So he went back and appealed it, and they gave him 70%. And I'm saying, well, you know, how did he do this? So then I went to the VA. It's out on Leesville Road now. And I said something is not right. Why? You know, I only got 30%. So they reviewed my case and gave me 50% right away. And that was about 20 years ago, I guess. And so he went back again, and by then I think he was getting some help with some assistance, somebody that knew what they were doing, and he gave him some pills or something to make him kind of shake a little bit, and he went back and he got 100%.
Gosh.
And I felt like, you know, that's not right for people to, you know, be doing stuff like that. And so there's a lot of people that back then, you know, that were getting screwed when they got out the VA. And so I feel like you need to help any veteran that you can to get what they deserve, you know.
Yes.
And so any way that we can through the PTSD or whatever, there's all kinds of ways that you can find things that will help the veterans get what they deserve. But I've just been involved as a veteran advocate for the last 15, 20 years anyway. And I joined the Vietnam Veterans of America after, well, Steve and some of the guys, David Stokes and all, they brought the moving wall to Lynchburg back, I don't know, 20 years ago. So that's when I started getting involved, you know, when I saw that moving wall. And I ended up going to the wall in D.C. And when I went to the wall and I saw the names on the wall of some of my buddies, I mean, it touched my heart, and it just made me, you know, realize that I'm here for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
We all given a second chance for some reason. So I'm trying to find out exactly what I can do to help these people, you know.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It was certainly an honor to interview you and hear these stories. Thank you so much for your service and everything that you do for the veterans as well.
Do you want to ask the...
Yeah, you can't get out
question?
without the hardest question. We got the hardest question we got to ask you. If you could pick anybody in history, dead or alive, any time in history, who would you pick and who would you hang out with for 24 hours, and where would you hang out?
Well, I was going to say George Washington because he's the originator of the Purple Heart Medal.
Oh.
But, I mean, that's probably a good answer because we're actually going up on August the 8th and 9th. We're going to Mount Vernon, his home.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a celebration of National Purple Heart Day, which is August the 7th.
Oh, wow.
And so that'd be a good one to ask, you know, what all happened, because he's the one that came up with a badge of merit, they called it.
Wow.
So,
well, thank you again. Appreciate you being on the show.